Rock Your Best Life podcast. With me today, I have Sylwia Tabor. She is a health coach, a carnivore health coach. She's a biohacker and one of the creators of the Carnivore Snacks. Welcome to the podcast, Sylwia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm really interested in everything you do. I love the Carnivore Snacks. I just ordered some more.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
I love all your biohacking experiments that I see you do, and I can't wait to dive into your background and your health journey and all that.
yeah, let's do it. There's definitely a lot, and pretty much the conclusion of it all is carnivore snacks. Not conclusion, but a lot
Yeah,
happen is it manifested into carnivore snacks.
yeah. I know sometimes when we're dealing with all of these health issues, it results in just necessity. Like all these, like a lot of my recipes I eat today are just because I had to. I had to come up with things that my body wasn't rejecting, basically. Um, but yeah, let's go into your health background. Like, how did you get here? What motivated you to, create carnivore snacks and health coaching and all that stuff?
Hmm. It's definitely been a long journey. I grew up in Poland where, we pretty much lived off of whatever our land produced for us, or we grew on the land. And I came from that to then I was transplanted into United States, and of course the food system in the United States it's totally different. And from Poland to here, the shock, the nutritional shock that my body experienced was very dramatic, and it started was just feeling very sick and sleepy all the time, kind of depressed. And when you go from one country to another country where you barely speak the language, and you go to school on top of everything else dealing with the physical ailments and things like that, it was kind of very challenging for me. And there were many times when I kind of wanted to take my life. It got to that point. From there I kind of started realizing that most of my symptoms were related to the food. And I started playing around with that from a very young age, probably since I was 13 or something like that. And then in high school, kind of started diving a little bit more and more into that. I was pretty active in high school. I played soccer and I was in track and field. And I definitely noticed that my energy and my performance when I was playing had to do a lot with what I was eating and sleep, of course, as well. So from that, I kind of started changing up my diet. Then in college, of course, I watched all the vegan documentaries where they just try to scare you away from eating meat. And I went vegan. I was raw vegan for 3 years, and then 1 year after that, I was eating just fruits. So they call it fruitarian, or the
Mm-hmm.
80-10-10 diet. And that messed me up pretty badly. It depleted my body a lot. I got to a point where pretty much every month I was fracturing my ribs from like stupid things, nothing really intense. And then my mental health suffered so much on the fruitarian diet, and I developed binge eating disorder that led to bulimia, and it was many years of bulimia. And after that, I kind of discovered Dr. Jack Cruz and his leptin reset diet, and from there I kind of started healing. And along the way, I've played around with different types of diets, like the bodybuilder diet, the this little 6 meals every 2 hours. and everything was pretty much for me just eating clean. I never was into heavily processed foods. So it was always fruits, vegetables, meat and fish. Then when I was vegan, it was basically just fruits, vegetables, none of the processed stuff that you see now. Back then, there weren't that many to begin with. There was only maybe tofu and tempeh. Other and I was very against soy and
Hmm.
Monsanto, so I wasn't supporting any of that. And grains were my thing either. So from the very beginning, I eliminated grains and beans and all that stuff, and just pretty much on the vegan diet, it was just for me fruits, vegetables, sprouted nuts and seeds. I was having some pea protein, which later on I kind of discovered uh, it was loaded with lead. And when I did heavy metal testing, my body was loaded in lead. And I wasn't even eating it that often either. So it was a little bit that led to a lot toxicity in my body. So from then on, I was kind of trying to find different sources of protein, but it was never the same as later on when reintroduced meat and fish and started healing. But from there, I kind of had to go. Um, I went keto after the vegan diet, but I wasn't feeling well on keto, and there were certain vegetables that were making me sick, and certain things that are considered healthy that for me, if I were to have just like few olives, like I would not be able to walk for 2 weeks after.
Oh,
My joint
wow.
pain, my knee joint pain would be so severe, it was just really bad. Steamed or pressure cooked squashes would give me a lot of wrist pain. And I was kind of like figuring out like what caused what. And then I went through very bad infection called necrotizing fasciitis. And what that is basically it's a flesh eating disease. So my
Mm-hmm.
body was essentially eating itself. And
Wow.
um, and on my Instagram, some people ask still ask questions where the scars from on my torso.
Oh,
That's what.
yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people think like, "Oh, were you fighting like a tiger for a steak or something like that?" I'm like, "No, that does sound a little bit more exciting than what I went through." But unfortunately, it was just necrotizing fasciitis, and it is a very scary infection. Many people die from it. I was
Hmm.
kind of lucky, but I had to go through 3 surgeries to clean that up, and with those
Wow.
surgeries in between, when they were trying to kill off the infection, I was hooked up to a lot of antibiotics. And
Hmm.
after all of that, and pretty much a week in ICU, when I went home, I wasn't able to eat anything. My stomach hurt so bad. Even drinking water almost felt like I was pouring acid, like an open wound. That's what it
Hmm.
felt like in my stomach. So from then on, kind of how I started carnivore, because eating meat was the only thing that I was able to tolerate that didn't hurt me. So yeah, that's how I went from there with, and then being carnivore for 3 years. A lot of things have healed, a lot of mental health came back, gut health. I don't want to say it has restored for me because it hasn't a
Hmm.
100%. Um, there are certain things with carnivore diet that I don't think are able to heal the gut 100%.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's just many things, but that's kind of like a short version of what I went through.
Wow. No, that's a lot, girl.
Yeah,
That is so, I mean, some people don't come back from that, I mean, it's amazing that you didn't have to have things, your colon removed or your intestines or, all that stuff.
to be honest, it was getting very close to that. It was very
Yeah.
getting very close to that, and I was beginning to worry because I did go through one surgery that was related to colon.
Mm-hmm.
and I started worrying that, like things would uh, start getting worse. So yeah, I had IBS for many years,
Yeah.
Crohn's colitis, and then in between all of that, dealt with Addison's disease, Hashimoto's,
Oh.
like regular, I don't want to say regular, but many autoimmune
Yeah.
diseases that people deal with. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of that, in between too.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that like once you have like one autoimmune disease, it's kind of a cascade. It just develops into more and more,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
even
then,
with the digestive, digestion diseases too, it that leads to more and more.
and I honestly, I started diving into and doing a lot of research for a clinic that I consult for, and just for myself, into gut health, microbiome, and all that stuff. A lot of the microbiome tests and things that are coming out, that are out in the market, those are just it, it's really hard to, you know tell people, when it comes to probiotics, that you need this probiotics, because in terms of microbiome and the whole microbiota, we don't really know that much. We only know like little snippets of it. The major thing about the gut is that if you can digest your food, if your mucosal lining is damaged, your mucosal lining is not going to be producing the enzymes to break down the food to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And many people can figure out that they have mucosal lining damage simply by, um, you know, if you have MCT oil or something like that, or the bulletproof coffee, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
and it burns your stomach, you can feel that burn. That's basically your body telling you that there's a damage to the mucosal lining. You have to fix that in order to be able to digest the food. If you're not digesting the food, it doesn't matter what you're eating. You can be eating the most amazing food out there. If you're not digesting it, it may be causing inflammation. It may be, most of the time, it actually is causing inflammation. But then at the other hand, you're not absorbing any of the nutrients, so you're basically being malnourished.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take into consideration gut health, and I do believe that it has to do with, if you take care of that, you can heal your autoimmune diseases,
Mm-hmm.
because thyroid, anything that comes to thyroid, is basically a lack of energy for that organ to function properly. So if you're not digesting the food, you're not absorbing the calories, your thyroid is not going to function. And then goes the lower energy, malabsorption of other nutrients, um, iron deficiencies, and iron deficiency is actually copper deficiency, but there's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a strong believer, in gut health. And
Yeah.
I noticed that I've experienced that myself, working with a lot of clients, people who deal with SIBO, who have Crohn's and other autoimmune diseases, and fixing the gut. I cannot tell you how many people have, just by fixing the gut, fixed other problems that they were dealing with. So yeah, gut for me, gut health is priority now, pretty much. Gut health, sleep, making sure that your environment that you're surrounded is optimal. Those things are basically my focus right now for myself and most of my clients.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I know for me that's what drew me to carnivore as well, is my gut health, because for me it got to a point where I couldn't even eat lettuce. I was getting,
Right.
yeah, all these pains, and I was like, what the heck? And because I was eating all these healthy plant foods, like a whole food keto type of version, and yeah, it created a lot of problems for me too. So
Yeah. And then, on the other hand, you have to think about, is it the plants that are causing the issues, or is it
hmm,
your gut health? You should be able to
yeah,
eat lettuce or other vegetables.
yeah,
Not necessarily in the quantities that are being recommended.
Hmm.
I do think that a little bit of some green vegetables is beneficial for the microbiome.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to nutrition, this is what I look at, how I look at it. Eating meats, organ meats, seafood, eggs, those are things that nourish our bodies. The things like fibers, vegetables, those are things that nourish the microbiome or feed the microbiome. If you do not take care of both of those, one of them will suffer. And I can tell you that being carnivore for 3 years, and I was very strict carnivore too, um, I did feel good, but then if I tried reintroducing anything, I would have severe gut pain. And that told me that, you know what, like I think I've healed whatever I could heal with just being carnivore. And now I need to really take a look at introducing other things and really, really healing the gut, because pure carnivore diet is not going to do it. And then
Yeah.
along the way, towards the end of my 3 years of being carnivore, I started developing C. diff. I started having a lot of SIBO and other issues, and that I've learned why that was, and it has to do with weak digestion essentially.
Hmm.
And many people on carnivore who go carnivore and who used to be vegan, they go straight from being vegan to carnivore. They aren't able to digest the meat simply because you're when you're vegan or even vegetarian, your body was not used to producing the necessary digestive enzymes to break down the meat. So it would take the body a little bit of time to start develop or producing that again.
Hmm.
So many people at the beginning need a lot of enzymes, a lot of hydrochloric acid, and that
Hmm.
helps them. And with time, they're able to taper off. But not many people do that, and I hear them say, oh, carnivore diet is not for me. It's not working. This and that. Yeah, it's not going to work for everyone. But that basically has to do a lot with the sorry
That's
with
okay.
with the digestion. So
Yeah.
I think
Well,
fixing
for me, I learned, yeah, I was just strict carnivore for like a year, and but then I wanted to reintroduce some vegetables, and at first it hurt, but I did it like I found it was mostly the amount, like the fiber for me, like too much fiber was causing the pain, so I started to do fermented and like really cooked vegetables at first. And now I'm
yeah,
at a point where I can eat, like some days I'm carnivore, some days I have plants,
yeah,
and it's healed a lot. But I realize too, like you said, it's not gonna carnivore is not gonna heal the whole thing. I think it's just taking away a lot of the irritants, and you can kind of have it. You should be able to have some things here and there. You know.
absolutely. Yeah. And and the fermented foods, a lot of people actually think, oh, there's probiotics in it. The
Yeah.
fermented foods have a lot of enzymes in it. That's what
Hmm.
many people are realizing. That's why you feel better, because they actually help you digest whatever's hasn't been digested in your digestive tract. It's been sitting there. When you're
Hmm.
taking the fermented, let's say sauerkraut or maybe pickles or other vegetables, those help you digest that through. And it's not even probiotics, because by the time it passes your the digestion, your stomach, there's not probiotics in it. What's the food for probiotics is the fiber. When it passes through, it ferments in your colon and produces butyrate, and that's very protective to your colon.
Hmm.
And it almost acts like this washing, almost like a soap. It washes out a lot of toxins. People, there is some truth to the point that too much meat causes colon cancer. There is some truth to that.
Hmm.
If you're gonna do that for a very long time, just eating pure carnivore, and your digestion is not 100%, yes, there is a slight risk you might develop that. But if you introduce a little bit of green vegetables, that essentially works as a like a soap for the colon, and it helps you out, clean everything out, absorbs the bad stuff, the toxins that are in there, and it
Mm-hmm.
helps you eliminate it. So I I love the carnivore diet for a little bit, as an elimination, just
Mm-hmm.
to sort of calm down the nervous system, the digestive system. But
Yeah.
then later you have to find a way to heal the gut, and
Mm-hmm.
the gut heals very quickly. The mucosal lining heals. If it's not super damaged, it can heal within 3 days. Many people just
Oh
do
wow.
3-day water fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. But then later you have to come back to eating food slowly. Have a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of vegetables, maybe just like 2 ounces or even 3 ounces of overcooked asparagus or green beans. And that's the key, having it overcooked.
Yeah.
And that's more nourishing for the body. The vegetables that are kind of snappy when they're uncooked, like green beans,
Mm-hmm.
asparagus. If you eat them raw,
Oh
they
gosh.
can activate certain fasting pathways in the body.
Oh.
So those are ideal for if you wanted to lose weight. So if you would eat a little bit of raw green beans with some very lean meat protein, that's perfect for losing weight. But is that perfect for healing the body or for whatever your goal is, so you have to think about that too, because those vegetables could actually cause more damage to already damaged gut. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a healing process, you overcook vegetables and you kind of make them mushy, and you
Mm-hmm.
eat a little bit, not bowls of salads and whatever it may be, because that can actually also damage the mucosal lining
Yeah.
more. Is
I can attest to that. I did that for like 4 years. I didn't know what I didn't know I was doing all this damage. I thought those were good, and I was eating
I
all these giant salads and oh boy.
Yeah, I don't. I think maybe it was Mark Sisson that introduced the big ass salad. It
Yeah.
was like something,
Well, and
right? Some
I was doing it around the time that yeah, he announced that, and I was like, I'm already doing this. I'm doing something great, right?
yeah, yeah. I've been there too.
But I didn't I like I didn't know that it was really probably tearing up my gut even more. So by the time I basically got to a more meat-based diet, I had no choice. Like I was like down to meat, you know.
I remember those days too, but it was funny when I started first, like I mentioned before, with the leptin reset and Dr. Jack Cruz. He was essentially talking about doing a carnivore diet, but he'd say, especially for women, women who struggle with binge eating and never feeling satisfied,
Mm-hmm.
he would always recommend have a big breakfast, and that would be maybe a lot of fish or oysters, and then a little bit of some green vegetable, and for
Mm-hmm.
me at that time a little bit was literally like 3 asparagus pears or something like that, or 5 green beans,
Yeah.
so, something like that, because first of all, like I never really cared for vegetables at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me it was just like, oh yeah, he's not recommending eating bowls of salads and vegetables, so I just went with it. And then um his next recommendation was having, like I said, having a big breakfast of protein.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the second meal, and for me the second meal used to be second and last meal would be like 3 p.m., and
Okay.
that would just meat, you know
Mm-hmm.
and it worked so well, resetting my leptin and just feeling satisfied. I was at a point after the whole vegan diet that I could probably eat a whole cow and still feel hungry. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like, I, what, where they have like those steak eating contest, or if
Yeah.
you can finish like the 72 ounces of steak, it's on us, or whatever. If you finish that in an hour, I'm like, I
Yes.
could probably do three of those,
Oh
in
my.
an hour, and still not feel satisfied. So after I finished the leptin reset, I remember once just sitting and eating my regular breakfast, and all of a sudden, like the satiety just hit me. I'm like, oh my God, if I have one more bite, I'm gonna throw up. And I literally had like maybe two eggs or something like that. And I felt so satisfied with that. And it felt so weird because I've never experienced that eating anything. I could just
Mhm.
eat and eat and eat. And I would look at other people around the table, and they would have like few bites of something, and they'd be like, oh my God, I'm so stuffed. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, I could eat everything from your plate and then finish everything that's still on the stove. So for me, that worked pretty well, and that's how I started. And having
Mhm.
with the leptin reason, just having a little bit of green vegetables, that really really worked. And now when I reintroduce vegetables, I still remember that time. I'm like, why won't I just do that? I don't have to eat, it doesn't have to be all or nothing,
Yeah.
as long as I get a little bit green vegetables, just to support my butyrate production, just to feed the healthy gut,
Mhm.
the healthy bacteria. That's all I need, and my gut feels way way better than eating all the raw, you know, romaine lettuces and other things. So yeah, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And what they say that more vegetables is better, that's not the case.
Well, yeah, and I think it also comes down to um, a little bit of individuality. We all have to kind of experiment and see what works for us, and we shouldn't just label ourselves with like a diet.
Yeah.
Um, and then even kind of look back on our how our ancestors ate, how they lived. We can learn a lot from that, I believe.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, sometimes even when you think about the hunters and getters, and, I do think that women probably sustain themselves a little bit of more of wild, maybe berries and things
Mhm.
like that than men did. But I also do believe that when men went for hunting and they couldn't find, or kill anything, along the way, they probably were chewing on some grasses, wild grasses, because when we were growing up in Poland, I remember going out in the field, and we called it young grass that started in spring. We would
Mhm.
pick the tops of it, and the bottom would have like this almost like a tiny bamboo shoot, but it was sweet and very juicy. So when we were thirsty, we would kind of like chew on that, and it was very flavorful. So I can only imagine like those hunters, they would probably find something to chew on that was maybe a little bit of fiber in there, and
Yeah.
that kind of, I don't think they were 100% carnivore. I don't think there's anybody out there that's was 100% carnivore. They probably did get some dirt to begin with,
Yeah.
because nothing was as sanitized and clean as it is right now. Definitely some grasses, some roots or something like that. So, and again, it was probably seasonal as well.
No, I agree. I agree with that. Well, let's dive into how you came up with Carnivore Snacks. What drove you to do that? And tell
Um,
and tell us any exciting news you can with that.
oh, there's there's a lot of news. Well, Carnivore Snacks, the idea kind of started when I was visiting my aunt in Arizona. And I was, I believe, keto at that time. And she already had a business that was kind of producing a similar product. And I started like playing around with her equipment. And I'm like, oh, I could actually make something for myself to when I travel, like just using her equipment. So that way it's going to be easier for me to just have like a steak on the go. And that kind of like faded away. I went back to Chicago and worked my 9 to 5 job, and I was kind of happy with that for a little bit. And then things have changed, and I decided to just pack everything and move to California. And I did, and my job in California was basically driving from one city to another city all over in Northern California. And I had appointments when I could not stop even at the place like In and Out or wherever it may be to just like get some food quickly. And I did, I do care about the quality of the meat that I do eat, and I want to support the regenerative farming as much as I can. So that kind of working that job kind of made me wish like, oh man, I wish I could have like a steak on the go that I could just like throw in my bag and go, and eat while I'm driving. And then, I remembered the product that, I created back in Arizona. And then I started talking to now my business partner, Mark, and he was very familiar with building websites and things like that. So I kind of asked him, you know, if he could help me out. Originally, I was just gonna like create something and sell it on Etsy and just like make it small. And after talking to him, it kind of like exploded very quickly. So
Yeah.
yeah, out of my own pretty much necessity, just for having a good quality meat without any of the spices, because I did react to garlic and onion powders, and most of the jerkies out there, they have that,
Hmm.
and even black pepper. So I just wanted something that was super simple, that was just basically meat and salt.
Hmm.
And I wanted it to be processed certain way as well, because when you bake salt into the product itself, it affects your body, how it processes it. So for me, if I do eat something that, let's say even meat that was already cooked with salt on it, it affects the osmolality of salt and it makes my body swell up like really
Oh.
badly. So that's another reason why I don't like the all the jerkies that are out there right now, because they however they dry the meat, they always put the salt first, and that definitely makes me feel like I'm getting almost like a histamine reaction from it, but it's
Hmm.
really how my body processes that salt. So that was another thing that was kind of a huge driver for me wanting to create something that, I was in charge of the quality from start to end, and with Mark having the same um, goals as me when it came to nutrition. He used to have a nutrition podcast, and he was always a huge supporter of local small brands that do the right thing,
Hmm.
and that not only, that are good for the human body, but also for the planet as well. So this is why we kind of decided from the very beginning that the meat that we're going to source from is going to be from only regenerative farming farms that are certified land to market. And then, so we're sourcing from places like White Oak Pastures out of Georgia.
Hmm.
And we decided to make it all in the US, source everything from the US, and just, support the US economy and create jobs here as well. So that was the whole goal that kind of started selfishly but grew into a bigger mission.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Those are like the best stories, the origin stories.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've kind of watched you grow a little bit. I love, love, love the pork loin. That's probably my favorite now. It to me it like tastes like a French fry.
I think it's our best seller, honestly, and that's probably my favorite as well. I do like the lamb sliders too, because they do have a little bit of like a lamby taste to it, but I
Oh.
can almost taste. I'm like a super taster, so I can. if there's like any chemical added to anything, even though it
Uh-huh.
doesn't say in the package, I will taste that.
Yeah.
So the lamb, I can almost taste like the herbs and the weeds that the lamb was eating.
Oh,
It's
wow.
weird. Our lamb sliders are very fatty.
Yeah.
So, and I like that they're kind of crunchy, but they're also like fatty. So you don't get that like chip crunch. But I
Yeah.
just like that little, I can sense that little flavor, that kind of there's like lamby flavor, but to me it's also like herby a little bit. So I do like that. Not many people do, but
Well, I
it's
haven't tried that flavor yet. I'll have to try that. I've
yeah.
only tried like the pork loin and then the ribeye.
We'll send you some when we're out of stock right now. We're kind of in the midst of moving the business to another state. We're very limited in production at where we're at right now.
Yeah.
This is why when people, if people are subscribed to our list, we kind of give them an update of what's going on. And I believe there was an email that went out today about the limitations that we are struggling with right now. So we do have the pork loin and ribeye, and we have some eye round.
Hmm.
Um, we're trying to get in on a schedule where we can produce the sliders, the lamb sliders, and we have also pork sliders and beef sliders. So we're trying to, improve our production. And like I said, we're going to be moving to a new facility. We're in soon. The production issues shouldn't be problem anymore. So
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard that is to deal with all the ins and outs of all that.
yeah, with like any startup company at the beginning, you do everything yourself pretty much.
Hmm.
So you know, it is me dealing with production, everything on the production side, and then my business partner, who's doing so amazing with everything, on the other side of marketing, and also trying to set up the new facility while I'm in a different state, trying to, keep up with the production and fulfillment and all that stuff. So at the beginning, it is kind of tricky to try to do everything yourself, and it, those are the stages when you might have to. But
Yeah.
as we grow, we're hoping that eventually we can hire more people to help us out.
Well, what have been like the biggest struggles to starting up this um, business?
The biggest struggles were probably finding good sources of meat,
Hmm.
and because the more you grow, the more material, or essentially meat, you're going to need. And
Hmm.
there's not that many regenerative farms that are producing at a large enough scale to be able to provide to a company like us. So they rather sell to direct to customer,
Hmm.
or just farmers market and stuff, and places like that where they can really get their money back for all the hard work that they've been putting in. But places like Wild Pastures, which are pretty big and they have been in business for a very long time, they're able to work with us, but still, they have limits as well. So the hardest thing is probably finding regenerative farms that are land to market certified. So if anybody who's listening this and knows of any farms or regenerative farms that might be able to or want to maybe work with us, that would be great. We're definitely open, and we'll be willing to start a conversation. That would be amazing.
Well, yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I know there's some regenerative farms around, right up the road from me, but yeah, they're smaller and
Yeah.
they've been struggling too with in the last couple of years with trying to keep up because it seems like now a lot of people um, they want they want to just do the subscription boxes and a lot of times when I'll they're running out, they can't supply with all these with all these demands, right?
This is why, like I like going to farmers market and supporting the farmers. Even it might not for our business, it has to be regenerative and land to market certified, but for my personal um use, I want to support the local farmers that are here in Arizona, and there are many that are doing the best that they can, and growing up in Poland and knowing what it takes to grow an animal and
Mm-hmm.
and make it basically survive through winter time when there's no grasses outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing, and sometimes that does mean supplementing their feed with something like we did it with potatoes that we grew at or our own land and beets and stuff like that. So we had plenty of hay that we saved from the summertime, but that also was towards the end of the winter that was scarce, so we had to supplement with other stuff. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% grass fed, grass finished, but as long as I know that I'm supporting a farmer that's doing the best job that they can do and that's local, I'm totally fine with that. I'm okay with that.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Well, what else would you like to add? What kind of message would you like to send anybody out there who hears your story and maybe is struggling with digestive issues, autoimmune issues? What message would you of healing would you like to give everybody?
I I remember the times when I couldn't figure it out, like what's going on with me, and I had severe brain fog, and I had Lyme disease on top of everything else, and I felt so weak, and I was ready to just like give up. And then I went the other way when I was ready to just spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a whole team of doctors to figure out what was going on with me. The first thing, it does start with what you're putting in your body. I think that as long as you can cool down that inflammation in your body and in your brain, then you can kind of start thinking rationally and having the energy to even feel like, okay, I can do this. I have enough in me that I can do this, I can heal. So but it starts with what you're putting in your body, what you're eating, and it may be different for everybody. I know many people that carnivore diet helps a lot. Other people, they don't feel good on carnivore diet. There are many people who react to many proteins that on the carnivore diet. Some people may only be eating chicken and that feels good to them because they're reacting to beef. So I I stay away from recommending diets to people because they really have to figure out what works for their bodies, um, at what state their stomach is, if they're able to digest certain things, if their digestion that needs support and stuff like that. So I would say start, don't give up. Start with eating a diet that's going to cool down the inflammation. If you can fasting is amazing at that. At that, for some people, fasting is I wouldn't recommend. So again, with that alone, you also have to think about your current state of health. Is fasting right for you, or is it not? There's modified fasting. There's also for people with severe digestive impairment. There's elemental diets, which I have seen work amazingly and provide a lot of the nutrients that they're not able to absorb from even whole food diets. Elemental diets are amazing for that, and they're able to strengthen the body and actually heal the gut and the mucosal lining. So that could be another option. But to make it just simple, yes, start with the diet, good quality sleep, go outside, get as much sun as you can, don't burn because that's not good either. That's creating inflammation as well. But
Mm-hmm.
sun is important too on the skin. um, just for me personally, like connecting with nature has a lot of benefits on my mental health. And I noticed that if I at least, couple times a week, if I don't go hiking or being out in water or doing something, I notice myself having like a little bit darker thoughts and just like lower mood and stuff like that. So for me, I know that I need that. I need that in my life. And even exercising, like I know that that's gonna boost my mood. So just movement, sun, nature, and good people. Surround yourself with good people. But sometimes it's just as simple as changing your diet, because that alone will help you result in sleeping better and then having, the strength to change other things in your life.
I love it. I love it. That's an amazing inspirational message. And where can people, if they want to work with you or check out more of your work, or buy some carnivore snacks, where could they? How could they do that?
Uh, Carnivore Snacks. Oh, we're at Instagram at Carnivore.Snacks, and snacks is with an X at the end. And a website is carnivoresnacks.com. We do have on the website, I believe we have a subscription link where if people subscribe, they get some discounts on that on first purchase, and then also all the updates, new products that are going to be coming out soon. So things like that. That's for Carnivore Snacks. For me personally, I'm just on Instagram right now at Syl Tabor. That's SYLTABOR, and that's mainly where I'm at. And if people want to reach out to me, I'm there. I'm pretty good about responding on Instagram. So that's
Okay.
that.
Yeah, yes, you are. I will link all that too in the show notes as well, so people can get all that goodies, all that good stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Sylwia. I will let you go. It's been amazing chatting with you today.
Thank you.
Order your carnivore snacks now at carnivoresnacks.com.